tell me who I am. Tell me who you see that I am. And I just let the Lord remind me of who I am, of who he's called me to be, of what he's called me to. And it was so amazing that night because I walked away from that night and I wasn't crushed by the things she said, but I was actually empowered by who God has called me to be. And you see, that's why you have to let the voice of the Lord be louder than the voice of the enemy. Because if you do not know who you are in Christ and you're not confident in that, you will become what everybody else says that you are. And you see, in high school, when people would say that kind of stuff about me, it actually started to change who I was. I was so shy in high school. I was very quiet, very shy. I was not like this at all. And even when I started to get asked to do things, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want people to think whatever they were going to think. And I just started to let what other people said about me shape who I was going to become, and what I was going to allow God to do in my life. But finally, whenever I laid it down and said, God, no limits, no distractions, here I am, send me whatever you call me to be, I will be. Whatever you call me to say, I will say. Now, just because you pray that prayer doesn't mean some people will still not misunderstand you. It doesn't mean the enemy will still not try to come after you and still kill and destroy, but it also does not mean that God will still not give life and life abundantly. Goes on to say this. So after that, Joseph's life is so crazy. So he was a slave, and this whole thing happened. And then after that, when Potiphar's wife did what she did, he was actually just thrown into prison. But I want you to hear this. This is crazy. It said, Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love, gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of prison. And the keeper of prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever was done there, he did. And whatever he did, the Lord made him succeed. So once again, life and life abundantly. Even in the prison, God was doing something there and giving Joseph favor and giving him life and life abundantly. And while he was there, crazy stuff happened. So there was a chief baker and there was a chief cupbearer who were in the prison with him. And they started having dreams. Well, y'all know Joseph's background. He's a dreamer, right? That's why he was thrown into the pit. He's a dreamer. So Joseph starts telling them what their dreams mean. He starts interpreting their dreams. And they're like, this is crazy. Well, all of a sudden, all this stuff starts coming true. The baker ends up dying. The cupbearer ends up back with Pharaoh. But years go by, and the cupbearer doesn't even remember Joseph, doesn't remember anything about this happening. Well, Pharaoh has this moment where he starts dreaming. He starts having these crazy dreams, and he's like, what do these dreams mean? What is this? And he's freaked out by them. So everybody is trying to find someone who can interpret these dreams. They are getting magicians. They are getting wise men, and they're like, can anybody tell us what these dreams mean for Pharaoh? Because they're freaking him out. And then all of a sudden, the cupbearer remembers Joseph. And he says, wait a second. There was someone in prison with me who was interpreting dreams. He can interpret this. He could do this. And listen to what Pharaoh says in verse 14 of 41. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. Hold on to that. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I've had a dream and there is no one to interpret it. I've heard it said that you hear dreams and you can interpret them. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, it is not in me, but God will give you a favorable answer. So Joseph sitting here is like, oh yeah, that's actually something God put in me. Now let's back up just a second because I just passed right over it. Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. Isn't it crazy that the same reason that got Joseph thrown into a pit is the same reason that Joseph is now getting called out of a pit?